Welcome to the U World Order Showcase podcast, where we feature life, health, and transformational coaches being the change they seek in the world. If you'd like to be featured on our podcast to share what you're contributing to making the world a better place for us all, please go to www.jointheuworldorder.com. Be sure to like and follow our podcast for the latest episodes. Hi, and welcome to the U World Order Showcase podcast. I'm your host, Jill Hart, and with us today is Mark Stubbles, who is a trauma-informed hypnotherapist who uses hypnotherapy to help his clients. He has a strong belief in the power of inner child work and hypnotherapy combined to help people overcome anxiety, depression, CPTSD, and the usual suspects, smoking and addictions, so they can live more productive and joyful lives. Welcome to the show, Mark. It's really great to have you here with us today.
Hello, Jill. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So tell us your story. How'd you get started in hypnotherapy?
Well, I got started in hypnotherapy. Growing up, I had always had a lot of anxiety, a lot of social anxiety, a lot of relationship issues. I had a very nasty divorce, but a nasty marriage as well. And I just kept getting into relationship problems. I ended up living with my grandparents, and they got more and more ill, um, which led to confrontations with the family, and various goings on in the family. And yeah, by looking at the people I'd grown up around, I got to see the source of my anxiety and relationship issues.
And you decided to investigate hypnotherapy. Did you find a hypnotherapist? Did you realize how great it is?
But I tried counselling first. When I was getting divorced, I tried counselling, and I didn't like the counsellor very much. I didn't find counselling that helpful. And I didn't really want to open up to anyone, to be honest. So I first started listening to hypnotherapy recordings on YouTube. And then as time went on, as I built trust in hypnosis and realized that I wasn't quacking like a duck or anything like that. So I decided to see someone on a one-to-one basis, and yeah, that's what happened.
It sounds like a normal, I'm going to say a normal way to get into the whole coaching field and around hypnosis. I I've I've actually gone to two counselors in my life, and I was really disappointed when I went because I didn't really even have any idea what I was supposed to be doing there. I knew that I was feeling bad, but I really didn't even know that I needed to talk about my feelings because, it was in the 80s and early 90s when the internet wasn't as prevalent as it is now. So we have YouTube and places like that where we can go and get access to some of these tools. But just going and doing YouTube videos only tends to give us like a piece of the picture. It's way different than if you actually go to a hypnotherapist and have them target what your issues are. Can you kind of speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely, hypnosis is much more effective on a one-to-one basis. Um, With my clients, I do a lot of talk therapy. I, really try to uncover the root of their issues. Um, really try to get them to get a clear picture of what they want to achieve from hypnosis, how they will know hypnosis will be successful. The actual hypnosis portion of the session is probably half, it's only about 50% of the actual session, although I do use conversational hypnosis in the talking part, that the hypnosis that the client's aware of is only about 30 to 50% of the actual session. And my sessions typically last an hour and a half to 2 hours because of that talking therapy, because I really want to get a clear idea of what the client's got going on for them and where they want to go.
Excuse me.
Oh,
So if
oh
you're
yeah.
looking,
Oh, sorry.
so when you're talking about there's the talk hypnosis part, is that more like neuro-linguistic programming, NLP?
NLP, yeah, I do use some NLP, and yeah, conversational hypnosis, um, language patterns, and
Mhm.
reframing, um, all sorts of aspects.
So when it comes to actually using hypnosis to change people's behaviors, I guess we'd call them, or thought patterns, how does that actually work? What makes it successful?
Successful for a number of reasons. Firstly, hypnosis is a focused state of attention. Um, you've ever driven somewhere, got into your destination, not remembered the journey, that's hypnosis. Been watching TV, zoned out, lost track of time. Thought, wow, where did all that time go? I'm ready for bed. That's hypnosis. So because it's a focused state of attention, it can help to cultivate mindfulness. It can help a person to start to externalize thoughts and feelings. And modern society teaches us that we are our thoughts and our feelings, which causes people to fight against thoughts and feelings that they don't want to be having, beating themselves up for negative thoughts, feeling a certain way, thinking there's something wrong with them if they're feeling anxious, sad. So the mindfulness aspect of hypnosis can be very effective for helping people overcome that. Secondly, your mind can't tell the difference between a real or an imagined event. So just by imagining yourself the way you want to be, you actually start to create new neural pathways in your brain. The more you imagine yourself that way, the stronger those neural pathways become. Um, and thirdly, the more you take time to relax, the easier it becomes to relax, particularly if you've grown up with a lot of dysfunction. When a child experiences trauma, the emotional part of their brain, their amygdala, actually increases in size, and the thinking part of their brain decreases in size, making them more prone to issues with emotional dysregulation. So those are the three main benefits that I tell people about. Some people talk about brain waves and how you're accessing the theta brainwave state, which is thought to be a hyper learning state. Also, the brainwave state you go into when you dream, and dreams are thought to be the mind's way of processing information. And there's many other theories on why hypnosis is so successful. The three I like to stick with are that it can be a very relaxing state, that the mind can't tell the difference between a real or an imagined event, and it helps to cultivate mindfulness.
I love that. I was telling you before we got started recording that when I discovered self-hypnosis, it has really changed my whole sleep patterns and ability to fall asleep and stay asleep just by putting myself in that state. And you can do it with breathing exercises and just letting your mind tell yourself the story. So
Absolutely.
it works for me, but people that have bigger problems, if they're struggling with anxiety or depression, and this is not to, if you're struggling with depression, get help somewhere. Go to see your doctor and get some help right away. I do need to make sure everybody understands that. But if you're dealing with, you know, depression based because you're anxious about stuff, um, and it's not like a life-threatening type of depression, then seeing a hypnotherapist can be very helpful, and you can get solutions quickly.
Absolutely. You can get solutions with hypnotherapy. Usually, people see an improvement after the first session. Most of my clients only need 3 to 6 sessions to achieve the results they want. Um, so, yes, with hypnotherapy, you can get solutions, you can feel better much more quickly than you can with traditional talk therapy.
I know you offer a gift to people that visit your website or hear you on podcasts. So you want to talk about it's a free depression and anxiety workbook. Do you want to talk about that just a little bit?
Yes. So depression and anxiety, they're often comorbid. People often experience both depression and anxiety together. So I've put together a workbook to help people uh, with that. In the workbook, you will find exercises, EFT, emotional freedom technique, um, works on the basis of chi energy, and tapping meridian points around the body to unblock that chi energy. So I have the full EFT recipe in the workbook. I also have a couple of CBT exercises to help to reconnect with your emotions. And again, we all become shamed out of our emotions in childhood. When we start school, we get told to shut up, sit down, pay attention. We learn to suppress what we're feeling. So there's exercises in the workbook to help people identify what they're feeling and to heal it. Because what resists not only persists but becomes stronger. Um, and yes, you can also find a link to depression and anxiety workbook. Um, I gave I give work I give workshops 2 or 3 times a week, so you can find a link to my depression and anxiety workshop from the workbook.
Awesome. And we'll make sure we put that link in the description below. Do you do you want to talk a little bit about the difference between depression and anxiety? Just so people can understand that the feelings that they might be feeling, and also addressing the thought that we might think we're depressed or we might think we're anxious, but our bodies, we're often disconnected from feeling what our bodies are feeling. I know when I do EFT tapping with my coach, they ask, where are you feeling that in your body? So just talk about all of those little
Yeah,
things.
I do a lot of that kind of somatic kind of work when I work with clients on a hypnotherapy in a hypnotherapy session as well. Um, so anxiety is a conditioned response from being repeatedly exposed to things that cause you fear. Um, so kind of like Pavlov's dog, he I always tell the full Pavlov's dog story when I give the workshops, but your audience probably already know it. But so when you experience anxiety, the symptoms you experience would be very useful in a life or death situation. Sweating enables you to cool down in any kind of physical activity your mind perceives may be coming. Um, your heart rate increases to get blood flowing around your body so you can either fight back or run away. Depression, there's a difference between depressed feelings and depression. Depressed feelings let you know that you need to make some changes in your life, that something is wrong, that something needs to be fixed. Maybe you're not happy in a relationship, in a job. Um, Depression is a low mood that lasts for a long period of time. As you said, if someone is feeling bad depression, if they're feeling suicidal, they need to speak to their doctor. Um, so, yes, that's what depression and anxiety are. They often, I think, they go together because if someone experiences anxiety, as I used to, I isolated myself. I had a very small friend network. The friends that I did have were pretty toxic. My family was pretty toxic. Um, so I didn't have any kind of support network, which leads to depression. So I think that that is what causes a lot of people to experience the two.
Them together. So what's the difference between those two and say CPTSD?
CPTSD,
Yeah,
complex
sorry.
post-traumatic Complex post-traumatic stress disorder
Mhm.
is suffered by prisoners of war, children who grow up in dysfunctional families. The CPTSD to form, there needs to be repeated and ongoing abuse from which there's no escape and a reliance on your abusers. So as a child, you're going to be the perfect candidate to develop CPTSD. Everyone experiences trauma to some degree in their childhood. No one gets out of childhood without any trauma. As a child, you need what are known as good enough parents. A good enough parent will provide unconditional love, unconditional acceptance. The child will know they're going to get their needs met no matter what. Um, So most people develop some inner child issues. Um, CPTSD is more common than people realize. Like I would say, I had severe CPTSD, and I didn't know what my issues were until I actually started to heal, started to get better. Probably wasn't until about 3 years into my healing journey that I actually started to look at CPTSD. Um, so, yeah, I mean, one of the symptoms of CPTSD is anxiety, a constant feeling of unease, like something's always about to go wrong. Also, a negative self image, low self esteem, um, the child doesn't want to see their parents as bad, so they're going to internalize dysfunction. They're going to see themselves as bad, and yeah, that's going to create a negative self-image. So again, all of those things, being surrounded by toxic people, all of those things can lead to depression.
Yeah, just the whole not getting out of childhood without some trauma. It helps us become the people we're supposed to be, but not without a lot of pain, I'm sure. Um, so how do you actually do your coaching? Is it one-on-one? Is it in person? Is it online? Is it in groups? Is it a combination of stuff?
Always online. I moved everything online in 2020 in the COVID uh, era. So yes, everything is online. As I said, I give workshops 2 or 3 times a week. You can find them on Meetup and Eventbrite. I also list them on my website. Um, and then I have group programs. I have a stress and anxiety program, which is a 4-week program. On the stress and anxiety program, we do exercises every week, different exercises to reduce stress and anxiety. At the end of every session, we have 30-minute hypnosis session. Um, and I have a 4-week inner child program. On the inner child program, we do exercises to reconnect with the inner child through writing letters to the inner child, writing letters from the inner child to the adult self. The inner child program is about becoming a good enough parent to yourself. It's not about blame, everyone's doing the best they can with what they have. And I know, I used to be a bit of a dick, and I have a lot of things that I'd like to be forgiven for. Um, I can blame my parents, but then they can blame their parents, and their parents can blame their parents. So the inner child program isn't about blame, it's about becoming a good enough parent.
It's so powerful when you accept responsibility for your feelings. It's
Absolutely.
very empowering. It instead of trying to push it off and blame other people for how you're feeling, because you have no control over other people. You can only control yourself. And when you take that power back, life changing, let me tell you.
Absolutely, yes.
So how do people get in touch with you, Mark?
They can visit my website, anxietyhypnotherapist.org. They can find me on YouTube, Mark Stubbles. I have a Facebook group, Inner Child Healing, Breaking Free from CPTSD. I also have a Facebook page, which is Anxiety Hypnotherapist. I'm also on LinkedIn. I also have a group called Inner Child Healing, Breaking Free from CPTSD.
I love it. So does a person actually have to find the trauma or know the root of their problem in order to overcome it with hypnosis?
Not at all, no. It's a big misconception that you have to relive trauma in order to overcome it. As I said, the inner child program, it's not about reliving the past, it's about becoming a good enough parent to yourself. As a person starts to heal, there's the theory of repression. When something is too um, difficult to process, your mind represses it or suppresses it. Um, as a person starts to heal, memories may come up, but the the program, none of the work I do is about reliving trauma. We can use hypnosis techniques if someone has PTSD. Um, that they don't have to relive the event. I use a hypnosis technique which double dissociates them from the event. So they watch themselves watching the event. And that's a very powerful technique. And also just working somatically, as you spoke about earlier, working with the feelings as opposed to the cognitive, um, yeah, the cognitive side of things, the memories, just working with the feelings can be very powerful. And again, a person doesn't have to remember the event.
I've heard it said that even when you remember something, you're changing it. So it's totally possible to just remember it differently on purpose.
Every time you recall a memory, you change it. And your emotional state when you recall a memory can also influence that memory, which is one of the many criticisms of counseling. Because if you're talking over and over, you know, about trauma again and again, you're rewiring those pathways in your brain, you're keeping the trauma alive, and you may be getting upset, which is again building on the negative emotions that the memory has.
Yeah. Marissa Peer says, tell yourself a better lie because they're all lies. That
Mm,
was that was really transformational for me in my life because as you said, we all have trauma in our lives. You can just reframe, we just make up a different story that you tell yourself about the memory. Uh, It's totally, you're totally allowed to do that in life. It's not breaking some
absolutely,
rule.
absolutely, yes, yeah. Um, and yeah, as I said, the mind can't tell the difference between a real or an imagined event. So I would certainly, again, if someone came to me with anxiety or any any kind of issues and they didn't remember any trauma, I would never regress them to a trauma they don't know about.
Yeah, and you don't have to really know about it in order to heal the effects that it may still be having in your body. Just because you've repressed it or you're not remembering it doesn't mean that it isn't having some effect on your body, but you can actually let it all go without having to be conscious of it.
Absolutely, yes, yeah. But healing it is very important because what we don't heal, we will either reenact on others or find new people to reenact on us.
It can also affect your health in terms of sometimes if you've got trauma that you haven't addressed or you're not even really aware of consciously, but it's lurking back in your head, it can cause physical problems in your body.
Absolutely, it can cause all kinds of issues.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I there's another modality out there called I forget what it's called, but I remember it as the health code where or the body code, that's what I was thinking of, where you ask your body, what's going on and to release different traumas that are stored in different places, the whole process I found fascinating. It's not too unlike EFT in that it it's so simple, but it really has profound effects on you. I mean, when you think about acupuncture, where they're sticking needles in different points in your body, and I've had acupuncture, I've walked away from it feeling like euphoric, is the best way to describe it. But EFT can give you that kind of feeling also, in that it can release things that you may not even you don't actually even have to be conscious of what the problem is or how to like I used to think, oh, I can't do EFT on my own because I don't know the questions, I don't know the things to say. But just the act of tapping on those points can be really powerful.
Absolutely, absolutely. And EFT was, um, yeah, it was very powerful in helping me to overcome anxiety.
And I think they really do go together, hypnotherapy and EFT, in terms of just helping to reset your body and your neural pathways in a way that really supports a better quality of life. And like I said, it can happen so fast.
Yeah, it absolutely it can. Yes,
So, um, we're going to encourage the listeners to check out your website and to get that anxiety and depression workbook. And tune into a couple of your workshops. I mean, it's
absolutely. That will be fantastic.
okay. So, Mark, I really appreciate you coming and joining me today. What's the one thing you hope the audience takes away from our conversation?
Um, to know what you want to get from healing before you start out on your healing journey, to have a clear idea of what you want to achieve, to set clear goals, because you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there. And particularly people who have a lot of childhood trauma, they just think, oh, I want to heal. And it's just like peeling an onion, as just layer after layer. You need to know what you want to get from the healing journey.
Awesome. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us for the U World Order Showcase podcast. Remember, if you would like to be featured on this podcast as a life, health, or transformational coach, please visit www.jointheuworldorder.com. We look forward to talking to you next time as we present another life, health, or transformational coach being the change they seek in the world.